So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to look a little bit behind the scenes, and I'm going to show you the back end of what the MLS system looks like. Okay, so if you go to realtor.ca, you see the public side of it, right? We all search on realtor.ca if we're maybe near a property or wanting to know a price or wanting to search something, and that's a search we can do on our own. We can put in some criteria for that. But what I'm going to show you tonight is the back end of what a realtor is able to search, what a realtor is able to see. And the purpose of that, guys, is for you to then know what is available to you. So if you're working with a realtor, you have somebody that is working on your behalf to find you a property, this is the different things that they can start searching for you. And you can let them know, I'd like to look up this criteria, that criteria, and that will help narrow down the search so that properties that fit your criteria, those are the ones that are sent to you. Now here's something that I wanted to just set the stage before we get into analyzing a property. I wanted to set the stage saying this: when we analyze a market and then a neighborhood within that market and then a property within that neighborhood, all three of those things tie in together. Okay, so we might think to ourselves, here's the perfect market and here's a perfect neighborhood. In that neighborhood, I want to have an 8-plex. I want to have a 4-plex. I want to have a house with a suite. I want to have a condo. It could be many different types of property. And we might have the perfect market and the perfect neighborhood, but the property that we want may not even exist, or it may not even come close to cash flowing. And so that's why all three of these sectors that we're talking about all kind of tie in together. Okay, so we can't be focused on just one of these points. And we're going to look a little bit behind the scenes as to what a realtor is able to see. Now, this is the system that is used in the Edmonton area, and that's why I have access to it. And so every real estate board doesn't necessarily use the same system. However, they are able to look up the same information. So hopefully that makes sense. Everybody uses kind of different programs all across the country to access what we call realtor.ca or MLS. Okay, so behind the scenes for the Realtor Association of Edmonton, that's what I'm going to be showing you. You're going to get a good picture as to some of the things that we can search for behind the scenes. And so regardless of what real estate board your realtor works within and what part of the country you might be searching, these are all different types of criteria that they're able to search, although the program may be different. Hopefully that makes sense. Here in Edmonton, we use something, it's called Paragon, and this is the program that is used here. Now, I entered a search. Now, we're going to go back to the criteria, and I'm going to show you what it kind of looks like. And this is what your realtor is able to see when they log in. You can search so many different ways. You can search by the city, by the neighborhood. You can see these down here, the community, different zones, maybe the name of the condominium building or complex, types of building, et cetera, square footages. We can go on and on about the criteria. You're able to customize this and add a million more fields. I'll just scroll through here quickly. You can see all the different types of fields that are, your realtor is able to add into their search criteria. For example, is it serviced by a school bus? Yes or no? That is something you can have. What is the total acreage? If you want something that's a minimum of so many acres, whatever the case might be, we're able to search as realtors. Now, what I did is I mapped a search. So instead of putting in a city or a community or a zone, what I did is I went into the city of Edmonton. I'll just zoom out here so you see Edmonton. Now, we talked quickly last week about a community called Bissett. Okay, so Bissett. Now that happens to be this community right here. Now, I'm able to draw whatever I want. I can draw a circle, I can draw a square, I can draw whatever polygon I want, and I'm able to pick a criteria. So let's say I want a polygon, and I want to search from this road all the way down to here, and then I want to search down to this road, this one. You know what? I want to just include that little section, and then I'll complete it. Well, you see how I can search a specific area there that now opens my search criteria. And so you can be really, really specific. So if you're wanting to be in a specific area across the right side of the tracks, we could say, and you know the town really well, or the neighborhood really well, you can be very, very specific on what you're searching. Now, for all of you on just searching realtor.ca, you can't necessarily do that, right? You're searching a whole city, or you're searching a whole zone or neighborhood, but you can be very, very specific and search several or half of one if you want. So that's the ability that you have as a realtor searching in that. And so I'm just showing you some of that. Now, if we go in this area, and I'm just going to give you an example, the status is active, so it's for sale, pending, or sold. And I'm searching all three of those criteria because that's going to help me get an idea of what is for sale now and what has sold. And you notice here the off-market date, I'm picking 12 months back. Now I could go 6 months, the last 90 days, what is sold. I can do lots of different things. So let's just go 6 months back. I have 13 properties that are either for sale, pending, or are sold in that particular zone or that mapped area that I mapped. I'll be able to search those. Now, what other criteria? Let's say that I want something with a minimum of 2 bedrooms, a maximum of 4. I want at least 1 bathroom. Pretty much every property, as you know, would have at least 1 bathroom, so that's kind of useless. And maybe I want a secondary suite. So I put in yes, it has to have a secondary suite for me to be interested in it. So let's see what's available. We're going to go search. And this is what comes up. What's the cheapest one that's sold, guys, in this particular neighborhood in Edmonton? Well, the cheapest one that sold was for $282,500. That's pretty darn cheap, isn't it? This is a condo. Do you notice it says condo? So that would mean it would have condo fees associated with it. The cheapest single family home, SF, sold for $309,000. Okay, so it starts to give us an idea. When did it sell? Oh, November 24th, not that long ago, just a couple weeks ago. It was only on the market for 11 days. So these things go fast, don't they, guys? And just looking at the picture, it looks like it's probably a half duplex with a suite. And that's what sold for that price. Now, what's available? Well, obviously we can scroll down, guys, and we see one here that is pending, $379,999. Another one that is pending at $415,000. The cheapest one actually for sale at this particular time goes for $595,000. That's a big jump in price, isn't it? Would the $595,000 work? Maybe. We'd have to do some analyzing on that. We already know the market's good. We already know the neighborhood is good. Now we got to start analyzing the property. What about this, guys? This brand new one is kind of interesting. $1.898 million. Okay. It's been on the market for 41 days. You know, let's just have a quick look at the pictures of this. Okay, it's a brand new. There's 4 suites, or there's 4 units. There's 4 suites underneath. So this is an 8-plex available for $1.8 million, and it's brand new. So here, guys, this is a range from $379,000 to $1.9 million, all within the same neighborhood. Obviously, the product is completely different, but this is where we want to start analyzing. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Let's pick this one, guys. This is the cheapest one. Now, this is currently pending, so it's not available right now, but this is what the MLS sheet looks like from the realtor side of things. Okay, when they print off a public one, it's slightly different. It doesn't have all the information that a realtor sees. Okay, so for example, some of the showing information that is put here, how to book a showing, etc. We look, let's start analyzing this one right now. Okay, so this is a $379,000 price. Do you notice in the chat, it says this house is, or not in the chat, sorry, in the description, $3,000 a month is what it's currently rented for. So how many of you think, would this property cash flow or would it not cash flow? And we are now going to figure out whether this property cash flows or not. So the first place we start here, let's just go with full asking price, okay? $379,999. You'll notice in our cash flow sheet here, immediately it tells us what our mortgage is going to be based on 25% down. Maybe we want 20% down, so let's just change that. our mortgage amount changes. We're going to have a 6.3% interest rate. Obviously, we can change that to whatever we think we may get or may not get. You were first to answer, Urshad, so I'm putting in 6.5. There we go. Okay, so what's the payment? Well, our payment up here is $19.21. So in our cash flow sheet, that automatically changes. And so that makes it super easy. Remember, we were told it was $3,000 a month in rent. The taxes, now you can't see it because I'm not sharing the screen of the MLS sheet, but it says $26.56 is what the taxes were last year. That's on a yearly basis. So in here we go equals 2656. Is that what it was? Yes. Divided by 12. So our monthly is $221. Insurance, I'm going to leave it $100. $1,200 a year for a home with a suite is fairly accurate in Edmonton. There's no strata fees, so we're going to leave that even at 0. Property management at 10%, which is fairly average. It's an older home, older meaning, let's see, it was built in 1981. It's been somewhat renovated. So we're going to leave repairs and maintenance at 5% and vacancy at 5% as well. Here we go, guys. Does it cash flow? Well, this particular property is showing us $157 a month of cash flow. Now, remember, if we're not spending money on repairs and we're not spending money on vacancy, that's an extra $300 a month that we are collecting that is going into our bank account. That technically is cash flow, assuming we're not spending it. Now that amount builds up in our bank account, right? And so technically this property cash flows $457 a month. Now, if we happen to be managing it ourselves, well, it could actually be cash flowing $750 a month because that property management cost we are also getting. So you can see how the numbers work here, okay? Now we have some other costs, and this is important when it comes to analyzing a property. Do you notice here we have purchase costs? So obviously we have legal fees. We might have other closing costs. I'm not sure what that might be. We might have some immediate repairs and renovations. In Alberta, there's no transfer tax. We might have an appraisal or an inspection cost. So let's just say we're going to spend $1,000 on both of those things. And we want to set aside a reserve fund. Because here's the deal, guys, and I want this to be very clear when it comes to analyzing a property, is that we might have 5% set aside for repairs and maintenance. That's $150 a month. But what if in month 4 or month 6 or month 8, something goes wrong with one of the furnaces in this house? Or maybe there's a leak in the roof and the roof needs to be replaced. Or maybe something happens that we weren't counting on. Well, is that $150 a month that is built up now for 4 months is $600? Is that going to cover our cost? No, it's not going to cover our cost. But what will cover our cost? Our reserve fund. If we put money aside to take care of that property, that will cover the cost of some fairly major repairs, won't it? So we always want to account for a reserve fund. And here's the deal, especially if we're working with a JV partner. We don't want, if something goes wrong in the first year, we don't want to be calling them and saying, listen, this went wrong and I need more money. That's what a reserve fund is for. So never buy a property without putting something aside in a reserve fund. So this is a very important section right here. What about traveling costs to take possession? Absolutely. You might, let's say you don't have a partner in Edmonton and you want to travel there to actually look at it or something along those lines. My suggestion would be that your property manager does all of that for you, or your JV partner, boots on the ground, does that for you so that you don't have that traveling cost. But you might have a travel cost even to go and look at the property in the first place. Right? So yes, could we put other costs in there? Maybe we're going to put $2,500 a month or $2,500 as far as travel costs. And we simply change that on here so we're clear as to what it is. So do you see here that sometimes what happens when people analyze a property is that they think, okay, it's $380, which means I need $80,000. But that's not the case, is it? What you actually need in this case is $92,000. There's actually $16,000 here that you can't forget about. These are costs that you need to be able to cover. And especially if you're working with a partner and they're putting the money into the property, you're not just asking them to put in 80,000. You're asking them, their initial investment is going to be $92,000 in this particular case. So these are all numbers that you need to account for. Now, the beauty of our cash flow sheet is that we're able to change these numbers and everything is figured out for us. So what are our return on investment on this property? Well, based on a 4% increase in value per year, we might be more conservative and change that to 3. Let's change it to 3 in this case. Our market growth over 5 years is going to be $60,000. Our cash flow is essentially 157 times 12 times 5, which is $10,000. And our mortgage paydown is already figured out for us. And why is that? Because our mortgage calculator is built into our cash flow sheet here. So it goes to year 5 and it figures out what that is. So our full return on investment here is almost 100% return over 5 years. We put in 91,000. Our total returns are almost 90,000, which is almost 100% return. So if we were to sell this property 5 years from now, we're expecting to have essentially $180,000 worth of equity, because our first 90 we put in, we get back. And then the other 90 that we made, we also get that minus our closing costs. So this is how we analyze a property, guys.